You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. I ran across a mock draft today over at Yahoo Sports. And it was quite stunning to me. And there's a lot of different places we could look at this mock draft where things were quite surprising. First of all, and this was Charles McDonald. Charles McDonald of Yahoo Sports has the number 1 overall pick in the draft. How about Will Campbell? It says Campbell is a technician on the left side who constantly stays balanced in a winning position. His upright stance looks funky, but he's a good athlete with light feet who can move in space, has core strength to bring pop in the run game. Campbell is a consistent and smart player for a franchise desperately needing some of that. As Will Campbell going number 1 overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. If that were to happen, Will Campbell would be the 4th number 1 pick ever. Of course, Dr. Billy Cannon, Jamarcus Russell, Joe Burrow, the 3 previous. And it's doable. I'll remind you, look, you go back, the last time an offensive tackle was taken number 1 overall was 2013. It was Eric Fisher to Kansas City. Since then, 8 times a quarterback has gone number 1. The other 3 were defensive ends. It makes sense. The only players that are going number 1 are a quarterback, the player that protects a quarterback, the left tackle, or the player that affects the quarterback, a defensive end. That's it. You had Clowney, Myles Garrett, and Travon Walker were the 3 defensive ends. So, yeah, if there was going to be a player other than a quarterback, it would be Will Campbell is as good as any to pick. By the way, they had Travis Hunter going number 2 overall. I mentioned that there was a giant surprise. The giant surprise, by the way, was not Will Campbell going number 1 overall. Depending on who has that pick, it may be a team that has a franchise quarterback that's looking for a left tackle. That might make sense. By the way, they got Emory Jones going 15 overall to the Chicago Bears. Boy, that would be a big boost for them. Getting Caleb Williams some protection there up front. You'd have 2 picks in the top 15. But that's not the super duper big surprise. How about a pick number 30? Harold Perkins to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Well, that would suck, having Harold Perkins in the division. That would be awesome for Harold. Despite the injury, still going in round 1. You know, he's got a decision to make about what he's going to do, and a lot of that's going to depend on what the draft pundits and such think about his ability where he would fit in the NFL, and also his ability coming off the knee injury. So he's going to have to get some of that draft grade feedback to see what may happen there. But how about this? The 10th overall pick to the New York Football Giants. How about Garrett Nussmeier? It's over at Yahoo Sports. It's not totally crazy because while Garrett Nussmeier has started just 6 games in his career, the bowl game against Wisconsin, now the first 5 games of this year, he started 6 games of his career. NFL teams are absolutely desperate for quarterbacks. And the write-up here on Nussmeier reads, surprise, get used to seeing this name in mock drafts. Nussmeier has been one of the best quarterbacks in the country and has operated the LSU offense with extreme ease and efficiency. He could be the next face of the Giants if he keeps up this pace. There is a big if he keeps up that pace. I'll remind you, there are teams that have grabbed quarterbacks in the top 10 with less experience than Garrett Nussmeier. Mitchell Trubisky started for 1 season at North Carolina. 12 games. He started 13 in his career. One the previous season, one as a sophomore, then 12 as a junior, but started 13 games in his entire career. Anthony Richardson started 13 games in his entire career, 12 as a redshirt sophomore. Both those guys went in the top 5. Drake May was a 2-year starter at North Carolina. So a little bit more experience, but was still just a 3-year player. Nuss is already in year 4. If Garrett Nussmeier keeps up this pace, it is completely plausible that an NFL team where they are desperate and starved for quarterbacks, because the thing we know about this NFL is it is a quarterback league, and you are not winning a championship if you don't have elite quarterback play. And so teams have got to get them. And sometimes you're just beholden to that draft. Who is available in that draft when you're picking at the top? And sometimes you get really lucky because there's a Joe Burrow or a Jaden Daniels at the top of that draft. There's a Trevor Lawrence that makes it easy. I understand Trevor Lawrence has struggled this season, but he had Jacksonville in the playoffs a couple of years ago. But my point is, it was an easy decision at number 1. Sometimes you're taking E.J. Manuel in the top 10. I mean, it's just, what does that draft year present to you? Sometimes it's Daniel Jones, which incidentally is kind of another good comp there for the lack of playing time that may be a comp to Garrett Nussmeier. But when you're doing it in the SEC as efficiently as Garrett Nussmeier is, when he's in the top 15 of every major statistical category in the country, passing yards, passing touchdowns, efficiency, quarterback rating, it plays. But I also think it's so interesting, and it's somewhat of a cautionary tale here, because there's a lot of fans that want Garrett Nussmeier to have a great season, go pro, because Bryce Underwood's coming next year. And I'm going to remind you again, Zach Mettenberger, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, 3 guys that became a starter in year 4, the year 4 in college. Now, Jaden started for 3 years at Arizona State, but their first year starting at LSU was their 4th year in school, and they played well. And then the 5th year was a kaboom. For Burrow and for Jaden, their 5th year netted them Heisman trophies. For Mettenberger, they had an historic offense. First SEC offense with a 3,000-yard passer, 2,000-yard receivers, and a 1,000-yard rusher. What would Nussmeier look like coming back in 2025? That could be a national championship team. And before you roll your eyes and hem and haw, I know you'd be losing your offensive line, but you could hit the portal. Tyree Adams would be a 3rd-year player. DJ Chester would be a 2nd-year starter. You've got guys, Weston Davis, you got really talented 5-star guys that you'd be a year older, and you could certainly hit the portal. Caden Durham, Harlem Berry, Kamorian Pimpton, Tradez Green, does Chris Hilton return, Kyle Parker, Shelton Sampson. You got talent on that side of the ball. Okay, I'm not worried about that. You get Nussmeier back, boom. And defensively, Ahmad Bro a year older, Dominic McKinley a year older, Deshaun Womack in his 3rd year, Whit Weeks is a junior, Stamps is a 3-year starter, P.J. Woodland as a starter, Deshaun Spears in his 2nd year. You're bringing in a 5-star in DJ Pickett. You could hit the portal. My point is, you could start to look at it and say 2025, you get Nussmeier back, attack the portal in the right way. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but I'm just saying, you give me the opportunity to have Garrett Nussmeier back for 2025, I'm with it. With total respect for what Bryce Underwood might very well be here. So I want to remind you the cautionary tale is what's going on at Oklahoma. I had Muse pull this. You remember we had Eddie Radosevich with us, who's from Sooner Scoop. And we were talking about Dylan Gabriel, who came to Oklahoma. They were a 6-win team. He turns them into a 10-win team. They say, basically, get out of town. We're playing the 5-star Jackson Arnold. We've seen how that's gone. Jackson Arnold's been benched. It's not even before October. This was Eddie Radosevich in July.
It feels very much like Dylan Gabriel was told, hey, you're not going to be our starter because we're handing the reins to the young guy, the 5-star.
Yeah, I mean, I think that happened even before last season, too. I think everybody kind of knew, this is going to be Dylan's final run, because I think the original plan for Dylan was he's going to go play 2023. He's going to go to the NFL draft. He's going to get drafted. Yeah. Everybody's going to be happy.
And Dylan decided to come back. NIL opportunities. And they said, no, we're going to the kid. So now he's at Oregon on an undefeated team. He's a Heisman contender. And Oklahoma has already benched the kid that they told him to get lost so they could play. I'm just telling you, it's a cautionary tale if you just want to hand over the reins to a freshman. There are going to be bumps and growing pains. So I am as excited about Bryce Underwood as everybody else, y'all. But if you tell me I got a shot to get a fifth-year senior back who's playing at this level, I'll take that every single time. But if these types of projections keep happening for Garrett Nussmeier, where he's projected as a first-round pick, he's going to be a one-year starter, and he's off to the league. There's no reason to come back if you're going to be a first-round pick. Something worth following as we move along. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.